Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss about the devastating say of Masjid al-Haram in Mecca. On November 20th, 1979, the Subahi Bank called at Masjid al-Haram in Holy Mecca. As usual, a large number of the believers lined up on the swafs for prayers. The Imam of the Haram Sharif, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zumayn, led the prayers. After the namaz, the time when people sits in the musalla for dua, suddenly gunshots are heard from the other side of the Masjid al-Haram. As people get up from their swafs in panic to see what is going on, the terrorists who have crept into their midst are creating problem with weapons hidden in their cloths. They shot and killed security personnel who tried to stop them and some believers. Thus blood fell on the holy Kaaba. Before realizing what was happening, the doors were closed by these terrorists. From November 20th to December 4th, after 14 long days, it was possible to subdue these terrorists. There was a black history of not being able to perform tawaf and prayer in the holy Kaaba. Behind that attack was militant group identified themselves as Al-Ikhwan, referring to the religious Arabian militia that had played a significant role in establishing the Saudi state in the early 20th century. That period the Saudi was ruled by Sheikh Abd al-Aziz ibn Baz. Saudi was trying to be a part of the modern world. They were making millions of dollars by mining oil. At that time, the Otaibai tribe fought against the king and against the Saudi government. The Grand Mosque of Mecca was besieged by up to 600 militants under the leadership of Juhayman al-Otaibu. The Ikhwan called for an uprising against the House of Saud and also declared that the Imam Mahdi had arrived in the form of one of the militants' leaders, Muhammad Abdul al-Qadim. Juhayman alleged that the House of Saudi had become corrupted, decrying their pursuit of alliances with Christian infidels, and stating that the Saudi government's policies were betraying Islam by attempting to push secularism into Saudi society. A day after, Saudi communicated with militants and requested to release children, women and old pilgrims. They accepted and they released few women, children, elderly people including Haram Imam. The goal of the Ikhwans was the Saudi king to leave the rule. The ruling Al Saud dynasty had lost its legitimacy because it was corrupt, ostentatious, and had destroyed Saudi culture by an aggressive policy of westernization. Thus Saudi demanded terrorists to surrender, but they blackmailed Saudi, saying if they do something militant, we'll kill the hostages. They took defensive positions in the upper levels of the mosque, and sniper positions in the minarets, from which they commanded the grounds. No one outside the mosque knew how many hostages remained, how many militants were in the mosque, and what sort of preparations they had made. At the time of the event, Crown Prince Fahd was in Tunisia for a meeting of the Arab League summit to Morocco. Therefore, King Khalid assigned the responsibility to two members of the Saderi Seven, Prince Sultan, then Minister of Defense, and Prince Nayef, then Minister of Interior, to deal with the incident. Officially, the Saudi government took the position that it would not aggressively retake the mosque, but rather starve out the militants. Nevertheless, several unsuccessful assaults were undertaken, because the group was well armed and trained. Some members, like Al-Otaibai, were former military officials of the National Guard. At least one of them through the underground tunnels in and around the mosque. His only way was to retake mosque aggressively. The first task was to seek the approval of the ulama, which was led by Abdul Aziz ibn Baz. Islam forbids any violence within the Grand Mosque, to the extent that plants cannot be uprooted without explicit religious sanction. The ulama issued a fatwa allowing deadly force to be used in retaking the mosque. The Saudis requested urgent aid from France, which responded by dispatching advisory units from the GIGN. After French operatives provided them with a special type of tear gas that dulls aggression and obstructs breathing, Saudi troops gassed the interior of the Grand Mosque and forced entry. But perhaps because the rooms were so bafflingly interconnected, the gas failed and the resistance continued. Saudi forces drilled holes into the courtyard and dropped grenades into the rooms below, indiscriminately killing many hostages but driving the remaining rebels into more open areas where they could be picked off by sharpshooters. More than 2 weeks after the assault began, the surviving rebels finally surrendered. Shortly after news of the takeover was released, the new Islamic revolutionary leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khomeini, told radio listeners, "It is not beyond guessing that this is the work of criminal American imperialism and international Zionism." Anger fueled by these rumors spread anti-American demonstrations throughout the Muslim world, noted occurring in the Philippines, Turkey, Bangladesh, Eastern Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and Pakistan. Al-Qahtani was killed in the recapture of the mosque, but Juhayman and 67 other insurgents who survived the assault were captured and later beheaded. They were not shown any leniency. The king secured a fatwa from the Council of Senior Scholars which found the defendants guilty of several crimes. On January 9, 1980, 63 rebels were publicly beheaded in the squares of 8 Saudi cities: Buraida, Dammam, Mecca, Medina, Riyadh, Aba, Ha'el and Tabuk.